North Korea, often described as unescapable jail, was not always the way it appears today. In the early years, specifically around the 7th century, Korea was a kingdom renowned for its beautiful culture, art, and nature. Fast forward to today, North Korea is considered one of the most oppressed and strictest nations on the planet. So what happened in between these years? How did a country with such a rich cultural heritage transform into what is often described as an unescapable jail? And why did North Korea choose to follow a path so different from its southern neighbor, South Korea, which is now known for its democracy and economic prosperity? In the early years, specifically around the 7th century, the Korean peninsula was home to the three kingdoms, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. These kingdoms were renowned for their rich culture, art, and technological advancements. It isn't that there was complete peace. The period was marked by both prosperity and conflict, with the kingdoms often at war with each other and with external forces. By the late 7th century, the Silla kingdom, with the help of Tang China, succeeded in unifying most of the Korean peninsula, leading to the unified Silla period. This era saw relative peace and significant cultural development. Buddhism flourished, and numerous temples and cultural artifacts were created, some of which still stand today. Fast forward to the early 20th century, Korea was annexed by Japan in 1910, leading to 35 years of colonial rule. The end of World War II in 1945 brought liberation from Japanese occupation, but it also marked the beginning of division. The Korean peninsula was split along the 38th parallel, with the Soviet Union occupying the north and the United States occupying the south. In 1948, two separate governments were established: the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north, led by Kim Il-sung, and the Republic of Korea in the south. This division was meant to be temporary but became permanent after the Korean War, 1950 to 1953, which ended in an armistice rather than a peace treaty, leaving the two Koreas technically still at war. This marked the beginning of the cruel system we see today. In the tumultuous aftermath of World War II, the Korean peninsula became the stage for one of the most enigmatic and oppressive regimes in modern history. At the center of it all was Kim Il-sung, the founding father of North Korea and architect of its totalitarian state. Born Kim Song-ju in 1912, Kim Il-sung rose to prominence during the Japanese occupation of Korea. As a young guerrilla fighter, he fought against Japanese colonial rule and emerged as a hero to many Koreans. After World War II, with the Soviet Union's support, Kim Il-sung assumed leadership of North Korea and established the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in 1948. From the outset, he implemented a personality cult that elevated him to near-deity status. Under Kim Il-sung's rule, North Korea became a closed society, isolated from the rest of the world. Dissent was ruthlessly suppressed, and any perceived threats to Kim's power were swiftly dealt with. The regime's grip on power was maintained through a combination of fear, propaganda, and surveillance. Kim Il-sung's cult of personality permeated every aspect of life, from education to entertainment, ensuring unwavering loyalty from the population. Like many dictators, he ruled with an iron fist, and his regime was characterized by a pervasive system of control, suppression of dissent, and human rights abuses. Reports from defectors, survivors, and international organizations have documented instances of political purges, forced labor camps, torture, and executions under his rule. The cruelty and oppression under Kim Il-sung's regime can be attributed to several factors, including the desire to maintain power, enforce ideological control, and suppress dissent. Firstly, dictators like Kim Il-sung often resort to cruelty as a means of consolidating and maintaining power. By instilling fear and quashing any form of opposition, they aim to ensure their continued rule and eliminate any perceived threats to their authority. Secondly, the regime's ideology played a significant role in justifying and perpetuating its cruelty. Kim Il-sung's cult of personality, coupled with the strict adherence to state ideology, created a framework in which dissent was equated with treason and punished accordingly. Furthermore, the closed and isolated nature of North Korean society, coupled with the regime's control of information, allowed for the perpetuation of cruelty with minimal external scrutiny or accountability. Without access to alternative viewpoints or avenues for dissent, the regime was able to maintain its grip on power. This was the root which grew an oppressed and a depressed nation. The question arises, why did no other country or global power intervene to stop Kim Il-sung from perpetrating these atrocities? There can be several factors. Firstly, North Korea's alignment with powerful allies like the Soviet Union and China during the Cold War era made direct intervention challenging for Western countries, as it risked provoking conflict with these allies. Additionally, North Korea's closed and secretive nature limited access to first-hand information about the extent of the human rights abuses, making it difficult for the international community to fully grasp the situation. Moreover, some countries may have prioritized strategic interests or geopolitical stability over human rights concerns when dealing with North Korea, leading to a reluctance to intervene directly. Not only the abuse, this cruel leadership also became a major cause of poverty. The poverty and deprivation in North Korea have deep roots, stemming from the aftermath of the Korean War in the 1950s. However, the situation worsened significantly in the 1990s during the period known as the Arduous March. This severe economic crisis, exacerbated by natural disasters, economic mismanagement, and the collapse of the Soviet Union, which had been a key source of economic support for North Korea, led to widespread famine and starvation. North Korea's economy contracted sharply, with the regime prioritizing military spending over food production. Despite international efforts to provide aid, the regime's strict controls hindered assistance, leaving millions suffering from malnutrition and economic hardship. On July 8, 1994, Kim Sung died, and after some time people realized Kim Sung's era was a bit better than the one who followed him. His son Kim Jong Il became the new leader of North Korea and followed the rules of his father, even made them more strict. His period was marked by widespread famine and starvation, leading to the deaths of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of North Koreans. The regime's prioritization of military spending over essential needs like food production, along with its refusal to accept significant international aid, further worsened the situation. In addition to the economic hardships, human rights abuses continued unabated under Kim Jong Il. The regime maintained strict control over the population through pervasive surveillance, arbitrary arrests, forced labor camps, torture, and public executions. The government's oppressive policies and practices created a climate of fear and repression, with severe restrictions on freedom of speech, movement, and access to information. Following Kim Jong-il's death in 2011, his son, Kim Jong-un, assumed leadership of North Korea. Today marks the 13th year of Kim Jong-un's regime in North Korea, and he is following the strict rules created by his father and grandfather. Even he made them stricter. The terror he has spread is beyond imagination. The one who disobeys gets shot publicly. It is the only country in the world where punishment is given to those whose relatives have committed a crime. In 2009, a 2-year-old child was also sentenced to life in prison just because a Bible book was received from his parents. Because even following a religion is considered a crime in North Korea. Not only that, but there are also several strict laws that I find particularly weird. Breaking these laws can result in a lifetime prison sentence. You can't watch foreign movies or listen to foreign music. In one extreme case, a handicapped child was executed in front of a stadium full of people, including his mother, because he was caught listening to South Korean music. You can't make any international calls, and only government-approved haircuts are allowed for both men and women. They even have their own unique basketball rules. One particular law that literally made me laugh is that North Korea holds mandatory elections for all citizens over 17. However, these are not free elections. There is only one option on the ballot. Consequently, 100% of North Koreans end up voting for their dear leader. There are many other strict laws you might not have even thought of. One of the strictest laws, which always results in a death sentence, is attempting to escape the country. Escaping the country was never allowed, but there were many people who made it possible to escape the country and have a life with freedom. But escaping the country is not that easy, and that's because of North Korea's geography. On the west of North Korea is the Yellow Sea, while on the east is the Sea of Japan, where the North Korean Navy keeps such tight security that it is not possible for any illegal boat to come close. To its south is South Korea, which is one of North Korea's biggest enemies. That is why the security in the sea near it is rigorous. Those fleeing North Korea have no better option than South Korea. It is not because South Korea is a very developed and free country, but because South Korea considers all North Koreans as its own citizens. That is, if someone manages to cross this line to avoid the North Korean army, this step can change his life. But only if he manages to arrive alive, because North Korea has stationed so much army on its border that even a bird will think twice before crossing the border. Running directly from North Korea to South Korea is like inviting your own death. because North Korea has deployed nearly 750,000 soldiers on this border. Apart from this, border wires, fences, and landmines have also been installed near the border. Another historical way to enter South Korea is to run through the northern border here. North Korea's largest border in the north is China, and a small part is also shared by Russia. This method is comparably easy but not less difficult. Because North Korea has no threat of attack by China and Russia, their military deployment on these borders is also low. But this entire 1,300-kilometer border is full of dangerous mountains and jungles. In addition, North Korea's border with China runs mostly along the Tumen and Yalu rivers. That is, even if a defector reaches the China border, the challenge of crossing the river will be to face it. For this, defectors and smugglers would wait out the winter when both rivers froze over and cross the border simply by walking over it. Similarly, this method worked even in hot summer when the river level is very low. The danger for defectors in reaching China or Russia was not yet averted. Because North Korea had a military alliance with China and Russia, which meant that if they caught a North Korean defector on their soil, they would hand him over directly to North Korea, and then it is not difficult to guess what North Korea used to do with them. Therefore, their work did not end when they reached China and Russia. They had to run away from there and go to another safe country. There are Myanmar and Laos in the south of China, but these two countries also caught North Korean defectors from their territory and sent them back to North Korea. So now the options are Thailand, Vietnam, and Mongolia, which have direct borders with China. It was considered a safe country for defectors, because, as you know, South Korea considers all North Koreans as its own citizens. That's why these three countries sent North Korean defectors back to South Korea, not north. So the plan for the defectors was to first enter China or Russia, and then go to Thailand, Vietnam, or Mongolia, and then voluntarily surrender to the authorities there. And from there, they were put on a plane and sent to South Korea, where they could start their new life. A sudden increase in escape was reported after 1990, when the support of Soviet Union ended and United States started applying a lot of sanctions on North Korea, which lead to malnutrition and people death due to starvation. Then many people decided to run away from here only after 1991. With each passing year, the number of defectors from North Korea increased. Even after the drought ended, the number of defectors continued to increase. Since 1990, a total of 34,000 North Koreans have managed to escape and reach South Korea. In 2009, record defectors were noticed, which reached 3,000. The number of defectors remained high in 2010 and 2011, but then something happened at the start of 2012, due to which the number of defectors suddenly dropped by 50%. And that was the point where the era of Kim Jong Un started. Kim Jong Un intensified crackdowns on smuggling and defections by installing signal jammers and increasing intelligence monitoring along the northern borders. A fence and additional military patrols were set up, and China installed a surveillance system on its side of the border. This made it much harder for North Korean defectors to escape, and brokers significantly increased their fees, which most of the North Korean people can't afford. By 2019, only 1,000 defectors managed to escape due to these measures. The situation worsened with the onset of COVID-19. North Korea completely closed its borders to prevent the virus from entering, as a significant portion of the population lacked access to proper food and was vulnerable to disease. In August 2020, the military issued a shoot-to-kill order for anyone approaching the Chinese border. Consequently, the number of defectors has been nearly negligible for the past 4 years, turning North Korea into a vast prison. Google, Facebook, and YouTube are far away. Here the internet is used only in government offices, and only the websites created by the North Korean government can be used. They have phones, but those phones are locally assembled in which softwares are installed that monitors people's phone activity. On March 11, 2024, a video went viral on X, allegedly showing North Koreans pretending to use the internet. The video shows vice journalists' visit to a computer lab in North Korea, where the silence and lack of activity among the students suggest it was a staged environment rather than a genuine situation. No one was doing anything. There was no typing, no mouse clicking, nothing. The entire world watches this grim situation, but no country can effectively intervene due to North Korea's nuclear capabilities, developed with technology transferred by the Soviet Union. This nuclear arsenal deters even superpowers like the United States from taking direct action, leaving economic sanctions as the primary response. These sanctions aim to pressure the regime but have limited impact due to North Korea's alternative trading partners and illicit activities. Thus, the international community remains largely powerless to challenge the oppressive regime directly.